What stops you from being happy? Fear, anxiety, other people's opinions, regret? Well, whatever it is, you're not the first to face these obstacles. Literally every person before you for thousands of years has come across them and has made their lessons. Why am I unhappy? Want more even though I already have more than enough? I'm scared of death, aging, and losing my loved ones. How do I stop worrying so much? Not only does the philosophy of Stoicism hold the answer to all of those and many more challenges we face, but it's essentially the accumulated wisdom of our great ancestors on how to be happy. In the last year or so, I studied the works of the Stoics so I can today show you their perspective on 7 key areas to make you live a happier life. But first, I must introduce you to the once most powerful man in the world who was actually a Stoic. His name is Marcus Aurelius. He was Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD at a time where the Roman Empire stood strong at an immense size. In his position, he could have had anything he would have ever wanted. And most Roman emperors did. They used their position of power to satisfy any desire that would come to mind in a thought of a second. But not Marcus. Marcus was different. He practiced Stoicism, choosing to control himself, or rather his mind, one's most powerful tool. In his later years as emperor, he started writing down his beliefs and learnings, which, although were never intended to be read by anyone but himself, are now accessible to us as the now known Meditations, meaning we have direct insight into the private thoughts and notes of the once most powerful man in the world. Marcus was not the only Stoic we know of today. Other now prominent figures include Epictetus, Seneca, and Zeno, the father of Stoicism. By now, you probably already figured that Stoicism is an old philosophy, in fact 2,325 years old, but trust me when I say that there hasn't been a single thing in the Stoic teachings that I've found which can't be applied to today's world. So let's start with judgment, the first of 7 topics, through a passage from Marcus Aurelius. If any external thing causes you distress, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your own judgment about it, and this you have the power to eliminate now. Judgments are extremely important in the Stoic mindset. If you can master your judgments, you're basically already halfway there. What is an external thing, you might ask? Simply put, externals are things outside ourselves or outside of our power. Things we can't control, like for example an insult someone throws at us. We can't control a thing because we are not the person insulting us. Suppose someone tells you you're dumb. The insult itself is meaningless apart from what you make of it. If you're bothered by it, it's just because you care, which in turn is a judgment. Your judgment is that you think it's bad if someone calls you dumb. If you just didn't have an opinion or judgment or a different one about this insult, that would be the end of it right there. And you can apply that to all externals that bother you. Your opinion of these externals is what bothers you, not the external itself. Let me put it another way. Our fears, desires, and pleasures all involve 3 stages rather than 2. Not just the event and our reaction to it, but rather the event, our judgment or opinion on the event, and then our reaction to the event based off of our opinion on it. It is our job to notice that middle step of our judgment and its irrationality and apply reason to it. We can't control the event. It's out of our power, but we can control our opinion on it. Dedicating our energy and resources only to the things in our control is exactly a key pillar of Stoicism. Don't get upset about externals, things out of your control. As Epictetus put it, there is only one road to happiness. Stay detached from things that are not up to you. Because why would you? There is no use in breaking your head about something that is completely out of your hands. Take the weather for example. When it's raining outside, don't be upset about it. Rather be content or happy with the rain. Make the best of it. You can't always get what you like, so learn to always like what you get. The same way the Stoics tell us not to be enslaved by externals. Take this video as an example. The moment I press upload, the video is not in my hands anymore, but rather in the algorithm's hands. I can't control how many views it gets. It could get 100 views or 1 million views, but it's out of my hands, so I shouldn't be enslaved to it. I would obviously prefer the video getting a lot of views, but I don't let my happiness depend on it. The same goes for wealth. The Stoic always prefers to be wealthy over being poor, but because wealth is influenced by so many factors out of our control, the Stoics don't let their happiness depend on it. Externals should be indifferent to us, meaning we should neither be happy in their presence nor unhappy in their absence, and vice versa. This goes in hand with our modern finances. Someone who invests in stocks shouldn't be upset if they drop in price. They would prefer if the stocks rise in price, but shouldn't be unhappy if they fall. Don't attach emotions to things that were never in your control. We should rather let our happiness depend on our efforts. To help us stop being a slave to externals, the Stoics suggest looking at the external in its most literal way. Money is just worthless paper. We should see its cheapness by removing the prestige it was assigned. Death is also a topic given much attention to by the Stoics, and although in theory it is no different from any other external, the Stoics acknowledge its appearance of evil, causing fear in almost every person. In the words of Cicero, the whole life of a philosopher is preparation for death. In turn, the Stoics provide all the more ways of looking at death to make this external easier to let go of. The first being the unknowingness of the experience of death. Death has a bad reputation. We think of death as this ultimate terrorist ending to life, but this reputation was assigned only by people who haven't gotten to experience death yet. We don't know what happens after death. Death could be the greatest of all blessings to man, yet we despise it as if we knew it was the greatest evil. Secondly, the Stoics view death as an ongoing process throughout your entire life, not just a thing that will happen sometime in the future. As Seneca put it, we are mistaken when we see death ahead of us. The greater part of it has happened already. Whatever of our life is behind us is in death's hands. Or Montaigne, so why do you fear a last day? It does no more to advance you toward death than any other day did. Every day is a step toward death. The last one arrives there. The Stoics also urge us to focus on living a life of quality rather than aiming for a long one. We cannot control how long we live, yet we can control how well we live. If you aim for a long life but die halfway through, you will deem that life as incomplete or unwhole. But living well is much more in our grasp and achievable in a matter of weeks or months. Once you can say that you are living well, you will feel complete and satisfied. There's nothing else you're chasing like living long. Not the longest life is the best, but the best lived. When talking about a life of quality, we should also talk about virtue. Virtue is something the Stoics mention often. They say we should live virtuous. But what is virtue? In the most literal way, virtue is the result of an accurate use of reason. Applying logic to things. It's what sets humanity apart from animals, so the purpose of life must be found there, is what the Stoics think. In other words, though, the primary mission of the Stoics is to be helpful to others and serve the greater good. The Stoics think that's what we were put on this planet for. We should live according to nature. A tree grows strong and tall because that's what he's meant to do. He's living according to nature. To be a good human is to be virtuous. Honesty, consistency, and kindness are all part of that. So you might ask, the main goal of Stoicism isn't to be happy? Well, no, but the Stoics say that chasing virtue guarantees an offspring of happiness. We should embrace virtue for its own sake, and doing so is necessary to get the good side effect of happiness from it. Next up on the list is desire. Naturally, we humans desire certain things, be it wealth, status, materialistic things, or even just food and health. When talking about desires, the Stoics make a clear distinction. Natural versus unnatural desires. Natural desires are implanted by nature, such as hunger. These are finite and can be satisfied over and over without the satisfaction getting lower. When my hunger recurs tomorrow, the satisfaction I get from satisfying it is no less than today. On the other hand, there's the unnatural desires, like status, wealth, fame, or any materialistic thing. These are produced by social life or are stimulated by the appetite for things we don't need. These desires are never really satisfied. Once you reach our desire, the fulfillment is often less pleasing than we imagined, and we start chasing the next desire, which is very unhealthy. New desires appear when others are spent, and often the pursuit of a thing starts to become more pleasing than the possession of it. I'll make an example you might have heard before. The person in a wheelchair wants to walk. The person walking on the street wants a bike. The biker wants a car, the person driving the car wants to drive a Lamborghini, and the Lamborghini driver wants to fly a helicopter. Your desire is never satisfied, but rather just replaced by the next. In Seneca's words, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Or another example, when you used to be a kid, all you wanted was to grow up, but once you were an adult, all you wanted was to be a kid again. The Stoics urge us to get rid of these unending desires and be content with what we have. Be aware that you won't be a kid forever and enjoy your time as a kid. To battle the desires, we use the same techniques as before, because when you have a desire, there are really only two options to eliminate it. To go after it, which as we just saw isn't fulfilling and just generates the next desire, or to work on the opinion that produces it. Now, changing the opinion might sound simple in theory, but won't be easy if you're not very practiced yet. So there are multiple techniques the Stoics recommend. The first is by comparing. Naturally, we always compare ourselves with the people ahead of us, which also fuels our desires. So instead of doing that, the Stoics think we should turn the comparison around and look at all the people that we have surpassed. Most people don't do this. Desires don't make us look back. The person going to work with his bike only desires to be one of the people who can go to work by car instead of looking back on the people who have to get to work by walking. Stop desiring so much more and just look back to see how well off you already are. Another way to stop the endless desire chasing and to be satisfied with what you have is to think of how much you would miss the things that you currently have. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't imagine having things that you don't have. Rather pick the best of the things that you do have and think of how much you would want them if you didn't have them. Instead of chasing after the newest phone, think about how much you would miss your current phone if you didn't have one at all." Already by watching this video, you have the privilege of having access to the internet and being able to watch YouTube videos. Think about the desire that will most certainly result from not having access to the internet and be glad that you don't have that desire. Moving on, let's look at what others think. A topic that especially in our times is as prominent as ever. In a world where other people's opinions are transmitted within seconds through social media, our mind can't seem to find rest as it should. We are connected to the whole world through a device always accessible to us in our pocket. That's a lot of information our mind wasn't designed to process. And even though the problem wasn't at the scale it is today, the Stoics have already thought about and addressed it 2,000 years ago. In general, the Stoics advise us to act indifferent towards what other people think of us, like with any other external, unless it does us any good. And that is because we can't control it, so why should we care? When talking about what others think though, the Stoics see two sides of it: approval and criticism. Approval may appear as direct praises or in collective type as fame, while the criticism may appear as an insult or infamy. As a whole, the Stoic suggests not to seek the opinion or the habit of the majority when making a decision on what to prefer or how to act. We should rather look inside ourselves and do what seems right to us alone. As Marcus Aurelius put it, how much trouble he avoids by not looking to see what his neighbor does or thinks. The part of the good man is not to peer into the character of others, but to run straight down the line without glancing to one side or the other. Furthermore, we should value things for what they are and not for what anyone else thinks about them. If your favorite movie is badly rated on the internet, it can still be your favorite movie. If the general public dislikes it, so be it. It's still your favorite. Many people do things just for the purpose of getting appraised by others instead of looking inside themselves and doing it for them. Your opinion is much more important than the one of others. Don't live in reference to others. It does us much more harm than good. To tackle the desire for fame, we can again apply the hammer of reason to it. Fame is useless because it won't last long anyhow. In Marcus Aurelius' words, he who gets excited about fame after death doesn't consider that anyone who remembers him will also die very soon. I've already shortly touched on insults, but would like to add a few things while on the topic. Insults shouldn't bother us. Remember that the success of an insult depends not on how good it is, but on how sensitive you, the victim, is. If something insults you, change your opinion on the insult and you can be immune, especially if the insult is just stating the obvious. In Seneca's words, "They make jokes about my bald head, my weak eyes, my thin legs, my height. How is it an insult to be told what is obvious?" If someone calls you short, there are two scenarios. You either are short or you aren't short. If you are not short, just disregard the insult because it is just nonsense. If you are short, you should also disregard the insult because why would you break your head over it if the person insulting you is just saying what is true? If you get upset about someone calling you out for your actual height, you are just insecure. It's like if someone said you have brown hair and you would be insulted by it although the person is just stating the obvious. Next up is emotion, the thing that probably makes our life special. We feel things. If you've heard of Stoicism already before, or maybe from what you've picked up in this video so far, you might deem the Stoics as unfeeling and unemotional. It's a bad reputation Stoicism often receives, although it's not really true. In this regard, Stoicism is often misunderstood. The Stoics welcome emotion, and in some cases even go as far as to seek it. They just make a clear distinction from an emotion that is just in our way from one that isn't. As we've seen so far, judgments are a crucial part of the Stoic philosophy. We react to events based off of our judgments on them, so the Stoics try to avoid exactly the emotions that cloud our judgment. And that makes sense, right? If an emotion does you more harm than good, why would you not get rid of it? A prime example is fear, a primal emotion that exists to keep us alive. In early times, fear signaled the danger of death and gives the body adrenaline to escape a dangerous situation. Yet today, these deadly situations don't really occur to the average person anymore, but fear still persists as an emotion and now just attaches to situations less threatening. Fear of change, rejection, embarrassment, failure, or whatever it might be. The number one reasoning the Stoics apply on fear to eliminate it is the fact that we suffer in the present by fearing something in the future. This essentially makes us suffer twice, once when we fear the future event, and then when the event occurs in the future. So why do we increase the effects of the bad thing that will happen by pulling it into the present when we could just deal with it when it arrives? That just spoils the enjoyment of the present. Once the future comes around, deal with it with the same reasoning that you are using to deal with the present right now. And who's to say that the event we fear will even occur? By fearing it, we suffer even though we maybe wouldn't even have had to have suffered. Anger is another emotion that can be let go of pretty easily, as it is, as everything else, just an opinion. In the words of Seneca, nothing is heavy if we take it lightly. Nothing need provoke anger if one does not add one's anger to it. And what about the loss of a loved one that causes us to grieve? It's normal, a part of human life. Yet still, grieving doesn't really do us any good from a reasoned perspective. And here, many Stoics start to disagree. Some say we should disregard grief completely, while on the other hand, for example, Seneca says it's part of our experience. In his words, but surely to grieve for one's relatives is natural. Who denies it, so long as it is in proper measure? Grieve for a while and then reason grief to the ground. Because eliminating grief is eventually preferable over distracting ourselves and waiting till it wears off. Simply put, grief does no good for us, nor perhaps for anybody else. Not a single person takes pleasure from your tears. Neither can we now control if our loved one comes back, so we shouldn't bother. But then again, some emotions are encouraged, especially to the extent where they don't cloud our judgment. Pride, hope, or love. The Stoic goal is to be virtuous, help others, and serve the greater good of the world. And tell you what, the world runs on love. This video is not a complete overview of Stoicism. There are many topics I didn't go into here, but if you're interested, I'll leave the link to some books in the description, such as The Practicing Stoic by Farnsworth, which is an amazing book and what this video was mostly based off of, as well as the classic works such as Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Thank you for watching.